Hey there, holes, poles, everybody in between. Thank you for checking out the podcast. Come With Us podcast, of course. We have quite a show in store for you today. Ryan McRobie, he is the host of the All Lubed Up and Nowhere to Go podcast. He also works with System Joe Lubricants, a dude who's been in the market or been in the adult toy space for years, over a decade. So he's got plenty of knowledge that we're going to pick his brain on. So stay tuned for that. But want to give a shout out to our friends at Manscaped for sponsoring the podcast, for not only being a great partner, but making great products. The Lawnmower 4.0 is out now. It works great. I use it twice a week, once a week, just depending on how things are growing down there. The blades are extremely sharp. They are, it's got the little guard on there to make sure you're not nicking yourself down there or anything like that. And it's also got a light because when you're down there on your balls or down there on your pussy or whatever, you need some light down there, and it's got a spotlight so you can see what you're doing. So get to manscaped.com, check it out, use our promo code, come with us. That's going to get you 20% off. It's going to get you free shipping. Also, they've got the Weed Whacker, which trims your nose hair, your ear hair. It's a big problem for guys. Apparently, it's also a problem for women, too, according to Beth. Something I didn't know about either. But yeah, the Weed Whacker is great for your nose hair. It helps to reduce the risk of like ingrown hairs. I've had crappy ones in the past that do not do that. So go check out manscaped.com, promo code come with us. You get 20% off, you get free shipping. They've got the ball deodorant. They've got everything there that you need to keep all your goods down below nice and cleaned up and fresh, because when you want to have fresh stuff just in case you ever have company showing up. So stay tuned. We're going to talk with Ryan McRobie, and yeah, go to manscaped.com, use promo code come with us.
Are you saying you faked with me?
Yeah.
Wrong. Now you're single.
What do you know about sexual relations?
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
You're listening to the Come With Us podcast, talking the good, the kinky, and the ugly. Here are your hosts, Beth, Aaron, and Tina.
Hello, hello, all you sexy holes and poles. Welcome to another episode of Come With Us podcast, where you're part of all the naughty, sexy, fun conversations that everyone wants to listen in on. I'm Beth Darling, your sexy genius, here from sexyedschool.com, here with, of course, the handsome Aaron, the always beautiful, even when she doesn't feel that great, Tina, and our special guest, Ryan McRobie from the All Lubed Up podcast. And he also is an ambassador for System Joe, the maker of zillions and zillions of lubes and massage oils and anything and everything you can imagine. So welcome to the show, Ryan. So glad that you're here.
I really appreciate you guys having me. These conversations are so important, and it's really a great time for everybody to get connected, ask questions, and just think about what their future looks like.
Yes. And we hope that everybody's future, no matter their relationship status, that it all involves great pleasure. And towards that, today, we're talking about sex toys. And now, my fetish for words, I hate the word toy because I like to take these things seriously. I prefer the term prop because I think everyone should have a really serious prop closet full of all sorts of things. But thank you. So Ryan, you have been in this adult arena, you said half your life, and
Just about 12 years now.
it's amazing. And so you know all about how vibrators and props get developed and made, right?
Yeah, I started a long time ago for a little retailer known as Fascinations. I was with them for about 6 years, upwards into management and doing actually a little bit of their corporate intranet. So when a new product came out, I was the guy doing the write-up on it, getting people excited about it, and just, carrying on the conversations. And I really like where a lot of manufacturers are going right now with their packaging and with some of the things they're being very specific on the value opportunity for their products.
So what do you think when people are going and they're like, all right, we want a new passion prop, pleasure prop. We want it. Let's start with vibrators. What do you think are the things they should be looking at, most concerned with?
Well, material is probably going to be the first thing that comes up very often. When I started in the industry, it was the time where phthalates were actually in products. And for those that don't know, phthalates is a plasticizer, and it was basically embedded into the material to make it softer, to change something from a hard plastic to a soft, touchable plastic. One of the big downsides to it is it actually started a health crisis because it really was a toxic and terrible material. So, depending on what generation you're from or where you're coming from with your information, because you always got to meet people where they're at. The industry has gone and taken massive strides towards more body safe materials. We see a lot more body safe PVCs, TPEs, and other things like that. So you have to kind of ask yourself, am I looking for something more soft, squishy, and realistic, or am I looking for something more hard and firm? If you're in the hard firm category, there are a lot of really nice beginner clitoral or G-spot toys that will be in a quality ABS. That's acrylonitrile butadiene styrene for anybody that wants to know. It
Lost me
this
on
goes
that
back
one.
to like when We Vibe first launched their salsa and tango back in the day. A lot of really nice ABS materials for some of the clitorals. But you're talking about, what do you want to get out of the product? How long do you want to keep the product around for? And just being mindful of the best clean that you can have on that product. So a lot of hard plastics can be ideal for some consumers that want something that cleans easily, that's a bit more, non-porous, and that will stand the test of time. If you drop it a couple times, it's okay. Most caps and bases to anything are going to be out of an ABS because it's just a little bit more durable.
Okay. What about silicone? Because I've got
Silicone
one
would be
from-
the top tier. It would absolutely be what we would consider medical grade in our space. What's really nice about silicone is you can get a lot of different textures from it. So what I always recommend to consumers when you're taking a look at a non-porous material like silicone, really get your hands on a bunch of different styles. Some of them, like when you're looking at a Fun Factory model, it might be more velvety or more plush. When you're looking at a Nu Sensuelle, it's hard and smooth. There can be some other materials that you'll see on the market that have sort of a patented name. You might know, like Cyber Skin or Fanta Flesh in the TPR or thermoplastic rubber blend. But
sorry, Tina's getting herself distracted because
that's okay. It's a great motor in there.
Amazing.
Right. So Nu Sensuelle sent us these. I have to say, because I requested, a friend of mine in the industry tested this and went crazy, telling me this was like the strongest and most amazing bullet. And I was like, okay, we need this, right? It is pretty fantastic. You can hear it.
Yeah. They have a very specific motor quality that is very unique to our industry. So as far as manufacturers that deliver power, when they were first on the market with their point back in the day, it was literally like the great white buffalo of clitoral stimulants. It was something that had a lot more kick. I was never a fan of 17 settings. That'd be my only critique of it, because you find yourself just kind of clicking through that, like, okay, now we're doing the rumba, and now we're doing this big wave thing. Like, I want low, high, and medium, and that's about it.
Oh, this one has 12, but I have to say, I had some good times just setting it on random ones and going, oh my God, it was really pretty exciting. But
I wonder if it's like too much. Is it too much?
Well,
I would not say too much. My partner, my wife of 13 years now, started with not much knowledge or information. She would be absolutely a base beginner. And there really isn't a motor that we've come in contact with that is too much. I think there's always an idea of being able to slowly ramp things up, because your sensitivity will kind of adapt over time based on your arousal level as blood flow changes and all this other stuff. So you really want to give yourself time to get to meet your motor and get to know what it's capable of.
Yeah. I say using a new vibrator is like a new car. I know how to drive, but every car, it's a little different. You're trying to get used to all the different things. So
Yeah.
I think when it's super strong, that you start in different places, you can sort of avoid the clit, perhaps go around until you're just begging for it
Mhm.
and then touch. But if even that's too strong, you can put a sheet between you and a vibe, or a towel or a blanket. So there are all sorts of ways to muffle it down. But if you have a vibrator that's not very strong,
Can't crank it up.
you cannot, right? And it's terrible. So,
Right.
and
You
I think
can
they should all
definitely
be
use
rechargeable.
clitoral stimulants and other things that make that erogenous zone more responsive to touch, something like a warming, a cooling, a tingling, anything like that.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about arousal products? Because there
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
there are nipple arousals, there's G-spot arousals.
Yeah, so I'll show one of my favorite ones from System Joe right here. It's called 12 volt. It's a thickened oil solution, so it's really easy to apply and it stays on the body. It's really nice for standing positions or anything that requires a little bit more hold. And inside this one, so for me, just so you kind of understand the decision that I've made as a consumer, my partner is not a huge fan of the traditional warming and cooling sensations. She finds it to be a little distracting. And when we developed this little puppy, we wanted to create a product that had a more unique sensation that didn't really skew towards a warming or cooling. So this is more of a tactile tingling or buzzing sensation, actually closer to the simulation of what your vibrator is doing. And
Ooh, I
we
like that.
obtain that by using the internal membrane of a Szechuan peppercorn. And it's ground up, the ingredients known as xanthoxylum.
I
And go ahead.
know exactly what you're talking about when you eat a little peppercorn when in like a Chinese
Your
dish, and it's
tongue will start to
yeah.
tingle. You get that really that
Mhm.
hot, warm breath and stuff. Yeah, nice peppery bowl of clam chowder or something like that will do it too. But this is definitely a product that will uh, ramp up the sensation from your toy without turning up the motor. It just is a great way to get you a little bit more responsive. And the one thing that I always remind people, because it is something that I learned and that I didn't know, I always thought the clitoris was just like this little pleasure dot, and that was what you stimulated. But it is a much bigger structure, and it's actually more like a wishbone, where a lot of the body contents will actually flow down and behind the labial walls. So you actually have a lot of areas that many people would not consider to be a part of that structure that lend to that sensation or stimulation. So the big thing with clitoral stimulants is don't forget your labia, don't forget all these other spots. And there are a lot of really nice pressure points and pleasure points that you can stimulate with a motor, and just kind of see how it feels for you. I mean, the best thing that I can say to anybody is exploration is the key. In a safe space, consensual with your partner or with yourself, it's always a great way to kind of figure out what you like and learn your body.
Yeah, and that changes for people month to month, day to day, certainly year to year. So I suggest every year people do a head to toe inventory where they just
Mhm.
touch and kiss and use whatever different lubes, massage oils, arousal things, and see what works today. Different than yesterday, perhaps. So, okay, let's explain how that works, the pepper. So it increases blood flow.
Yeah, I mean, even just the application of it, because again, we're normally pressing this towards the clitoris. We're lifting and kind of trying to separate the hood slightly, so we're getting more to those, nerve endings.
Oh,
So
so
even
apply it
just
more to the clitoris, the clitoral gland, which is the part like the little button that exposes,
Mhm.
which means, okay, for some people, pull back the hood.
Yeah, a rubbing upwards motion with a thumb and another posturing raise with the other hand can be very helpful. It normally takes only about a moment to really kick in. With something like this, or like our Warm and Buzzy, what you can do, it's not designed for taste, but the inner lower lining of your lip is very susceptible to these triggering ingredients that really get that sensation. As you were talking, this is a sensation that a lot of people know orally through spicy foods or other things like that. It's a little bit different than a capsaicin sensation or stimulation because this is xanthoxylum, but it is something that you can actually feel taking effect within 30 seconds. So if you were
Oh.
in a store and they had a tester out and you just wanted to kind of know before buying what it feels like, you will absolutely feel it in your lip, on the tip of your tongue, anything like that.
Oh, I like that. Is that also good for nipples, or do you need a different sort of nipple arousal?
We make a different product for nipples. When we're looking at a clitoral stimulant, we're looking for something that has a little bit of a different impact. For our nipple product, we use a Nipple Titillator. It's the product that we have on the market. And it uses a tri-blended menthol system along with vanilla butyl ether in order to be very stimulating to the nipples. It is a bit stronger than a
Okay.
clitoral product because we have more dense skin. We have a different erogenous zone altogether. So I don't normally recommend for people to cross certain nipple products into clitoral, only because they are two very different erogenous zones. And what may end up happening, it's not 100% for everything on the market, but you might end up with a product that is just a little strong for that application.
Okay. And just heads up, I had one friend and we went to like Sephora and she tried one of those lip plumping things and her lips swelled up hugely. So just heads up that different bodies react different ways. And so if you try one of these arousal things, just use a very little bit at the beginning to see how your body particularly responds. I think that's pretty key.
Yeah, and the same thing with all stimulants. In our industry, prolongers and penile desensitizers are normally in a stimulant category, even though they kind of do the opposite. It's just the best thing to talk about what interaction you're getting. This idea of, when starting out, this less is more, allowing yourself to try something at slightly different applications, allowing yourself to feel the difference between I've applied it and I'm getting ready for my experience versus I'm aroused and I have applied it. They will actually be two different sensations or scenarios for a lot of different users. So just keep in mind, you don't have to rush towards a finish or anything like that. Taking your time and really trying the product out at a few different ways, at a few different points, can be very eye-opening.
Yeah, much more entertaining. All right, we have so much to talk about in so little time, but one of the things that you mentioned to me the other day, I think Aaron and Tina will find interesting. You talked about a new product that the sound of the motor was actually pleasing to people or something, or there was something about the bass and treble, the hot octopus.
Oh, yes, of course. So,
Tell me, because clearly I jumbled all
yes,
this.
that's fine. So, when I started out in toys and I was looking at all these different motors, I wasn't breaking every toy in half because that was inventory, man. I'd have to pay for that. So I had to kind of have a way to understand it myself and speak to others. And at that point, I was still so new to a lot of these products that I was just kind of learning day to day as that growth experience was happening. But I had a wonderful mentor back in the day that used to say, think of it like a choir, and where you have these really deep bass rumble motors that just move, and you can really feel them shake in a different way. Well, let's consider that more on the bass side. And then we have these other motors which just sing and scream like a high-end soprano. They're very high in pitch. That
Oof.
it is not moving a lot, but it's moving at a tremendous speed. And for some people, it can be almost like that sneeze orgasm where it's like, oh, okay, done. But for a lot of users, it's like, what is the experience that I can take home when I'm using these products? And there was recently a launch by Hot Octopus. I believe the product is called the Crave. And they actually, on the power buttons, they have one motor that is identified as bass and the other motor that is identified as treble. And I absolutely love this communication system because I think it says a lot without saying a lot. I think it really connects to people in this sort of audio cloud generation where it's very encouraging for some newcomers to the topic to in some ways remove sex from the conversation or to think of this sexual topic in a non-sexual way. It just kind of connects. So I'm always looking for toy brands and toy manufacturers that are doing these small things. It's obviously still a sex toy. It obviously still has motors in it, but it's more shareable. It's easier now to talk with your friends about it. And it's one of those small things that really goes a long way to reduce negative stigmas because, there's usually a positive association with these terms, with music, with being hip and young and free. So I always really like it.
That's very cool. All right. Well, along the lines of new products, Aaron, you had mentioned one of the previous episodes about Balldo. Or did you just tell me? I thought we talked about.
I've got
this
one
thing.
over
Did I
here.
tell you
Let me grab
about?
it.
Balldo, this thing that goes on the balls? No, was it not you?
That wasn't me. That might have been when you were on Ryan's podcast.
That's actually probably me that was talking to you about it. The
Sorry.
Balldo.
Okay, well then
I was gonna say
that's
I'm
fine.
intrigued, but I don't know what the heck you're talking about, so I don't turn to me for information.
We
Sorry.
had the creator and CEO of this product on our show, and I was immediately enamored with it. It's a really nice silicone shape, and what you can see, notice the soft squish. Whenever you're looking at silicone, press it, squeeze it, see how it feels. Really get the sensation of the material. How much stretch can you get out of the material? So
what's the point of the Balldo? I think
I'm
it's so
glad you
cool.
asked because it's an interesting purpose. Now, we've obviously had cock and ball and testicular products in our industry for quite some time. You can have ball stretchers, you can have weights, you can have, perineum anchors and arches that massage the perineum as you're having sex. This was the first product ever developed to chase after the ballgasm. And it's actually been verified and quantified by many different media outlets. There was actually a whole Cosmo article written on the ballgasm. So basically, the ballgasm, this is a penetrative product that is worn around the testicles and used in order to have sex with your partner utilizing your balls. Now, it frees up the penis for some other things, but it is a very interesting product. And I almost guarantee most people will look at this and their first feeling is going to be like, I can't possibly fit in that, or how does that work? But the testicles are very durable. And the same thing as blood flow increases, and as you've started playing with the testicles, they will become a little bit more friendly to touch and possibly some rougher play, depending on what you're into. But the idea here is that you're stretching it open. You're getting one testicle in at a time. So the same thing as if I were to put on a metal C-ring, I'd get one testicle through at a time and then fold the penis in and through while flaccid and then work towards erection. In this case, the penis doesn't need to flow through this. So you have a really nice chamber. There's actually, what you don't know is there is a U-shaped piece of structural material that goes in between the sides and around the bottom. So it's not designed to fold. You can actually feel this stiffness.
So we need to describe for people who are just listening and not watching this.
Okay.
The Balldo is it's
think of a big ass bullet. Okay. And
Like a
there
gun
is
bullet, yeah.
hole in
Not a
the
sex toy bullet.
center, not a sex toy bullet, but they do look similar. It's basically going to look like a large caliber round, and it's going to have a circle at the top with reinforced sides and a pronounced tip. The diameter of this for penetration is about 2 inches. So it is a little bit thicker than some of the products on the market, but it's not anywhere close to where you're looking at like, okay, now we're in sort of fisting territory, or we're at a much larger insertable. This is definitely something that is a little bit more petite once you actually see it in person. And the balls drop in, and there are open parts to the chamber on the left and the right between the top circular part and the bottom tip, the sort of tapered nozzle on the front of it. And the openings are so that you can actually feel, you can get more of that body heat sensation. You can get a little bit of that, warm lubrication and things like that. For something like this, I would normally recommend a thickened gel, because you want something that's going to be kind of an ever wet surface that's not going to evaporate or dry up on you. You want something that's going to be lubricated for the long haul. And the idea here is it's not fast penetration. It's slow. It's nice. It's just a different motion altogether. But you're able to push up against your partner, and over time, you can actually get the experience of a ballgasm. Your body will actually get to this threshold of all the sensation and stimulation that you're feeling, and it's a little bit different from. It's more muted than sort of a prostate derived orgasm, or something that is more derived from the penile glands or direct stimulation. But it's something that is a longer lasting sensation, almost like an odd sense of euphoria, a constant sensation to the body that you will feel long term over time once it happens.
Yeah, actually, let me see if we can do this. If I can share my screen, because the actual Balldo website. Let's see if this works.
They have an amazing.
They have a graphic
video
that shows exactly how to do everything. Mm-hmm. Like, this is insane.
And what I like about this, while you're kind of queuing that up, I like that this opens it for the opportunity for people that are in the sex and disability category. For somebody with erectile dysfunction, I've met a lot of cyclists over the years that have, like, pro cyclists, and they've had a lot of damage over time to that sort of arc and cradle, the perineum arc. And erectile dysfunction can actually be very common with people that are more at a top tier athletic status, just because of some of the things your body goes through over time. So I do really like that. And I'm always interested, because there's something really nice about a product that allows a couple to feel something completely unique. And
Right.
I think for a lot of partners to be able to go there and, show their partner what a ballgasm is like, it's kind of an interesting checkbox. It's now a new milestone for people to consider as they're kind of going through their sexual checklist. They want to be able to explore a little bit of everything. And this is kind of an interesting next step. It's not it's not as difficult as you think. Not necessarily an ejaculation for me particular. I'm sure there are people that will do it, which is why for me it is very different from other types of orgasms. It's it almost feels more like a full body. Like if you've ever had that light, gentle tingle, I kind of would associate it close to like a good buzz or something like that. You can feel it pretty much all the way throughout your body.
Is it like a prostate orgasm?
A prostate orgasm is much more intense to my perspective, and everybody's going to be different. Please allow your body to give you different data and listen to that than me, because everybody's going to be different. But I can only kind of share my experience with it. It's a little bit more muted, but it's longer lasting. It's more throughout the duration of the rest of your experience. I was feeling sensations upwards to probably 45 minutes or an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, it won't let me share my screen, unfortunately, but like
It's okay.
it Balldo.com, Balldo.com. If you scroll down, there's a giant graphic that just shows. And I mean, of course, they're smart enough. They encourage you to shave your junk because silicone pulling on skin, if there's hair there, is going to be painful. But yeah, this is something like the thought process that went into this, that decided to make this, is so insane to me, that somebody was sitting there and was like, hey, I wonder if I do this and I manufacture this product, how it would work and how it would feel. Like, that's unbelievable.
What's really funny, we had the CEO on our show, and he kind of went through the product development timeline. And originally, because he had to verify his concept and he had to really get it out into a real form, he 3D printed the first version of it in, I believe, an ABS plastic. And he was kind of telling us the story where he had to verify that this product worked. So the first time it was used, rather than it being this stretchy, soft silicone, it was a hard, firm plastic. And he had to jokingly say an apology to his wife in the room, like, hey, sorry for that, but we're here now.
Yeah.
You know,
I love the innovation and the fact that, again, people should never run out of new sexy things to try. And I do think when it comes to the ED issues, for people who have even that lingering, oh, am I going to be able to work it tonight? When you have that, the Balldo, you don't have to worry, because it's like, oh, okay, let's do this instead. I think that's a good thing.
And what a lot of people don't consider, because sometimes when you try something new, you're very focused on that new thing.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing for a lot of users are, this can be the pregame for a lot of people. This can be sort of the slow, very passionate, sort of penetrative activity that really gets everything going and is really more meant to, touch and be close to your partner. You can also utilize a pump while this is on. You could be utilizing a male masturbator at the same time. This is something that gives a little bit more freedom to the player to explore multiple sensations at once. And there are some nice visual elements that some people will really like about this type of penetrative play.
Interesting. I think also piggybacking off that, we did an episode, I would say, 5 or 6 about toys at CES, right? New toys, new innovation.
Yeah, all the stuff that was at CES.
And there's some really interesting stuff that's coming out, helping people with like lots of different problems or tackling issues. I think we talked about, have you ever heard the patch, the one that goes on the perineum?
On the
The
taint,
electro stimulation patch for erectile dysfunction. Yeah, that was that's a big deal. More and more, I am seeing the possibility of toys in our industry cross over in future potential to become actual medical devices. And that, for me, is really the holy grail, because that brings everything full cycle. I don't often like this idea of like, mass market versus adult industry. I think it really kind of partitions the conversation for some people, and it kind of blocks off or funnels the way we have these free and open conversations about our sexuality and our desires.
Or like tech and sex. I mean, it's very interesting. There's so much innovation that could be done in sex, in the sex industry. But I think that there's still this stigma, especially in the tech, startup and
and it's so silly, because when it comes to health and wellness, sexuality, it is just as important as how we eat, sleep, exercise, and sex.
There's always been a positive link to mental health when talking about self-sexual maintenance and just being able to get the physical serotonin and all these different releases from an orgasm. I mean, think of it not as an orgasm, but think of it as just the button that releases all of these natural chemicals that your body makes. And there are links to reducing blood pressure, reducing stress, reducing anxiety. And I think, we live in a world that is has a lot of different beauty standards. And I think we're finally in this space where it's something we're really talking about. And I love it because I see a lot of people nowadays that are finding their freedom, that are no longer locked in this comparative landscape. And they're just kind of able and embodied to be themselves again. And I really want to see more of that,
Yeah. We're getting there. And again, shows like yours, All Lubed Up, our podcast, right? The more that we start talking, the more that we take sexy seriously and recognize that there is value, no matter who you are, how old you are, what abilities or you lack or don't have, relationship status, anything. Sexy is part of our makeup, our genetic makeup, our what keeps us going, and it's really the pilot light for everything else we do in life, I think. So, all right. Well, any other quick questions from y'all? But otherwise, this time has flown by.
I like keeping on the top of toys. Is there like one toy that you would recommend that someone should own? Like absolutely like a woman or a couple or somebody.
So something that's particularly unique.
Like your favorite or
I don't know about unique because I do want to make this accessible to anybody, and everybody's body's going to be a different shape. But I will say the most important product in my overall collection would be something that a lot of you would consider like a lay-on spot or something for a clitoral or topical vibration, something that is formed to the body, formed to hold. There's a lot of ergonomics in it. Some of the products that come to mind for me are like the Mimic Plus, We Vibes Touch, or the larger unit. I'm forgetting of the name. Fun Factory had the Leia spot. Jeju had the Mimi. Whatever it is for you, whatever it looks like, I think that for me, the biggest thing that really got me into the toy market was the understanding that there is actually a very small percentage of women that orgasm through penetrative sex alone. And it's this understanding that it's actually a very, very small number. So as I started learning about different toys, I was like, wow, well, this topical clitoral kind of really is essential. It keeps passion building. It keeps the mind very focused on the sensation and stimulation. And it's kind of like that background encouragement that just keeps building on the overall play scenario. And it's something where if you need to take a break and add additional lube, or if you've got to get a water break, it's very easy to maintain the position of this product and keep things moving forward towards an exciting climax. So I really would say, the most rewarding things to check out would be a good G-spot vibe. I think for a lot of women doing the exploration to find their own unique G-spot sensation and stimulation can be very rewarding. Although I do know a lot of people that have had a harder time finding that right fit in that category. So for me, the best bang for your buck is something high-end clitoral, something rechargeable that makes it a little bit easier for people to use and reuse, and definitely something that is waterproof, because I think sex in the shower, a little pleasure in the bathtub while you're reading or something like that, it just really opens up a lot of different doors where your pleasure can be more than just being intimate with your partner. It can be more expressive. It can be more private. It can be whatever you want it to be.
I like that idea. So everybody listening, get a brand new vibe, something fun, and get our COVID connections, a collection of erotic of erotic short stories from Darling Way. You can find it on Amazon, and COVID connections. And that way you can have something fun to read in the bathtub, some little extra power I kind of definitely suggest this right now. This is my new favorite. For so much strength.
Well, I mean, this is an audio medium. What is that?
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
The
I
Nu
got carried-
Sensuelle thing that Tina was playing with earlier with the motor. So
Right.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. It's a little, actually, it's a slightly medium-sized bullet, and it's called the 60SX amp. 60SX AMP. And that's by Nu Sensuelle. It is a vibrator that is so strong, so much fun, different patterns. Definitely has entertained me the past week very nicely. So I appreciate it. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, I think we've got to wrap up.
So you've been doing this and you've got the podcast, and obviously like when you have these makers on, they're sending you stuff to demo and stuff. Like how big is the closet that you and your wife have now of just toy after toy? And how often does she go, holy crap, like I've gotten way too, like, because we get sent stuff all the time. My wife will go digging through a drawer and be like, did you get enough stuff sent to you this week? And I'm like, yeah, well, kind of.
Never enough.
I actually don't get a lot of stuff sent to me. It's so when I started in this industry, I was working for a retailer, and then I moved over to the corporate side to do their product review and product launch information. And that was where my collection got a little crazy. I had to promise my wife that it would never get larger than 3 moving boxes. So we have a
got
lot.
there pretty
Some of
quick,
it
I'm sure.
for me is very much collector items of really classic styles, classic packaging. I mean, I think it's so interesting for me. I'm kind of archiving my experience throughout my life of being in this industry, because 5 years ago to 10 years ago is a huge difference. There's just a lot that's really ramping up. Quality is higher. The communication on packaging is better. We're seeing a lot of really interesting packaging designs, and a lot of luxury designs coming into our market that kind of came from the Apple style of unboxing, that lift one part of the component and then everything else in a nice seated package. It's just wonderful. So
And
for me, like my
warranties.
collection's mostly Tantus products. I've got a bunch of Fun Factory. I've got, Fun Factory back in the day, they did a lot of interesting design and development that was very popular in Europe, but didn't catch on in the States. So it's so interesting for me when you think about the cultural side of the conversation, where, really this is a vibrating toy, but so significant that one shape can be of importance in one region and a lack of importance in another. It's just an interesting topic to think about.
Do you ever see yourself or your company getting into the toy industry?
My company is not ever going to do toys. We actually did a license back in the day with Cosmo that it was a bit challenging, and it wasn't a very beneficial process, we'll just say, overall. We excel at lubricants and liquids, and that's really where our machinery and our experience and excellence shines. There's definite doors open for potential partnerships, but as far as manufacturing toys, it's not of interest. I myself am currently developing a toy line, but it would not be with System Joe. It's a brand new brand.
Wow.
Nice.
When can we look for that? We'll be very excited.
Well, I actually got an opportunity through some of the connections that I've had in the industry to join a little sex tech group. So it's very nice to be able to meet some of the people that are the technicians that do the circuit boards and that are really looking at the minutia inside. The system that I want to come to market with is far more complicated.
Wow.
As a consumer, the luxury market has kind of let me down for a very long period of time. And if I could throw down a soapbox and stand on it for a second, why can't I have a battery indicator on everything I own that's rechargeable?
Yes.
I kid you not, I need it. And I feel like a very stupid man when I don't have it, because I have no idea. I can't speak to this vibrator and find out what battery level it's in. And When
Right.
it's running out of batteries or when it's low on batteries, that's a sad panda. That's a bad day.
Yeah.
So
it's so
there's a lot
easy.
of little things.
It's like your Panasonic toothbrush has a little,
Yeah.
3
They're not
bars.
expensive. I don't
Yeah.
understand why people aren't doing it. This is just one of those trend things within our industry that it just takes somebody to say, hey, this is important for the consumer end experience, for the maintenance and, ownership of these items. But for
Yeah.
me, I'm focused more on the sex and disability side of the
Oh,
equation.
cool.
That's
One
good.
of the things that I've noticed in my time in retail that even with a larger gut or with different body types, it can be very difficult to pleasure yourself in certain positions. I was talking with a good friend of mine, and we were talking about, how they have those digger platforms on a playground, and the left arm moves the x-axis and the right arm moves the y-axis. Well, we're looking at basically developing an assistive or adaptive rod system that connects to the toy so that I could use it laying or in a more comfortable seated position where it's out in front of me. And by moving this lever, I'm thrusting the toy into me. And by
Ooh.
moving this lever, I'm operating the upwards lift. So I'm able
That's so
to
cool.
very simply and ergonomically pleasure myself without having to hold on to the toy, without having to do all that stuff. The biggest hurdle that we have is not every toy is designed to be the same. So
Right.
it's actually a very difficult solution when you're talking about an accessory to other people's products. But
I would love to do a sex and disability episode just on all of this.
Yeah.
in
That's
it's
general.
something I'm really passionate
Yeah.
about. I mean, other things that I'm very thrilled to be developing. I've had a lot of customers over the years with incredibly painful arthritis, incredibly, pronounced Parkinson's and other things like that, where, that lovely Nu Sensuelle bullet that you held up. I mean, that is a nightmare for these
Yeah.
users to hold on to maintain hold, and to apply pressure against an erogenous zone. So, we're thinking about a very nice neoprene sort of fingerless glove that has some kind of attachment, because really placement and being able to hold something is so critical.
Yeah.
And with a lot of these bullets, they're wonderful designs, but they really exclude a lot of different players. And, it's just
Good. I'm
something
so
that
glad
I'd
you're
like to see
jumping
change.
into that field because it definitely needs innovation and creativity. And we're at a point as people just age, we need those anyway. And so there's going to be more and more use for them. It's not going to be limited to a certain small niche of disabilities, I think. So
Right.
it's terrific.
Agreed. That's cool.
Very exciting. Okay, well, please let us know when your product gets closer and you can tell us about it and help us hype it. We'll be happy to hype it up for you and we'll be excited to try it, of course. Yes.
I think it could
Make
be
sure
fun.
you
I
tell
like
everybody where they
playing
can get your
games and
podcast too.
stuff like that. So our podcast is more B2B industry focused, but we welcome anybody that wants to be a part of it. If you are a consumer that is interested in hearing about the industry or hearing from pleasure and passion professionals about why they got involved in the industry and what they're really hoping to see within our industry as we connect with others, you can go to facebook.com with a / and nowhere to go. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We are the All Lubed Up Show. It's All Lubed Up and Nowhere to Go show because we started it during COVID when travel lockdowns happened. We had all this passion and poise to connect with our community, but we had no ability to travel at the time. So we created this little community for people to encourage and raise up other voices, because it really is an industry that is seeing so much growth. And the more that we can empower some of the smaller players with their innovation and with, their top quality elite stores. There's so much that we can do for our sex positive community and for the conversation overall, because I look at it as we're all in it together, whether we sell the same products or whether we do the same thing, because we care about the freedom that people have, and we care about people caring about their own pleasure. Like, you know, it's
That's
just
right. The
so
more we talk, the better we do, right? The more we
Mhm.
learn, the better we do, the more open, the more supported we feel. And that's important for the
Yeah,
rest of
yeah.
the
We
world.
were
So
talking
thank you.
to, a divorce lawyer, and one of a bigger reason nowadays for some of these difficult relational conflict is due to this sort of this difference in pleasure, and somebody feeling like a portion of their pleasure isn't taken into consideration as part of the partnership. So a common conversation that I would have in retail is I'd meet a female client, and they would say, I'm looking for something to help me orgasm. I'm constantly in a situation where my partner is able to climax, but I'm not able to climax on the same time frame.
Yeah.
And then we have this differential that we have to deal with. And sometimes it can be a bit dramatic because it's a partnership.
Right.
Both
Well, that's
people
the
matter.
orgasm gap, and it's worse than the wage gap, actually, which is pretty. It's just, and it's vital. Pleasure is vital. So, all right. Well, thank you, Ryan. You are such a pleasure. Thanks for sharing these things with us. We're going to have to get our hands on some Balldos now, and I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy those too. So I can't wait to hear all the stories.
All right.
But all right. Well, thanks everybody. And go find Aaron if you want to listen to his All Lubed Up and Nowhere to Go podcast.
Ryan, not Aaron. I'm Aaron. He's Ryan.
Sorry, I was looking at Ryan. Looking at Aaron. I'm tired. Sorry.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day already, but go find Ryan on Facebook.com /nowhere or /nowhere to go. And you can find us at Come With Us Podcast, and also go to sexyedschool.com to find all sorts of classes to help minimize that orgasm gap, please. Thanks, everybody. This is the podcast you need for all the bare naked truth about love, sex, and relationships. And we hope we've given you some good ideas, and you're looking forward to adding some new sexy fun to your life.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Come With Us podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at Come With Us Podcast, and send in your questions, comments, and confessions to comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. Until next time, keep it fun, flirty, and naughty.